The man who discovered the purpose of life. What if the purpose of life isn't something you search for, but something you create? This is the extraordinary story of a man who faced the darkest chapters of human history and emerged with one of the most transformative ideas of the modern era. His name was Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist, a Holocaust survivor, and the mind behind one of the most powerful books ever written, Man's Search for Meaning. While others perished under the weight of despair, Frankl found something deeper, a reason to live, even when everything else was stripped away. What he discovered reshaped psychology, spirituality, and how we understand our place in the world. He didn't just survive. He found purpose in the pain. And you can too. So stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll discover that the meaning of life isn't a mystery to be solved, it's a mission you're meant to live. If you believe this message can help others, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Let's explore this journey together. Topic 1: Viktor Frankl, the man who sought meaning before the war. Before he became a world-renowned name, Viktor Frankl was already a brilliant young mind fascinated by the human psyche. Born in Vienna in 1905, he immersed himself in the works of Freud and Adler, but soon realized his own vision of humanity was different. Frankl believed there was something deeper than instinct or power, the drive for meaning. While many sought pleasure or dominance, Frankl argued that human beings are primarily motivated by a will to meaning, a deep desire to find purpose in life. This concept, which would later become known as logotherapy, was already forming in his mind long before war cast its shadow. It was a revolutionary idea in a time when psychology focused mostly on behavior or unconscious drive. As a young psychiatrist, Frankl began applying these ideas in his practice, helping patients find meaning even in the face of depression and despair. He believed that when a person understands the why behind their life, they can endure almost any how. This belief would soon be put to the ultimate test. What makes Frankl's story extraordinary is that he didn't just theorize about suffering from the comfort of an office. Life would soon place him in one of the darkest environments imaginable, a Nazi concentration camp, and it was there that his theory would be tested, day after day, moment after moment. Everything he had studied about meaning, resilience, and the human spirit would now face brutal reality. Stripped of freedom, family, dignity, and even hope, Frankl still clung to one thing: the belief that meaning can survive even when everything else is taken away. His observations during that time weren't theoretical, they were lived. He saw firsthand how those who had something to live for, whether a loved one, a dream, or a sense of duty, were the ones who endured, while others crumbled under hopelessness. Frankl's inner strength didn't come from ignoring suffering, but from embracing it with a sense of purpose. He realized that even in extreme suffering, life still offers us a choice: how we respond. And in that response, we shape our destiny. This foundation would later become the cornerstone of his life's work and the message that continues to transform lives today: we are not victims of circumstance, we are creators of meaning. Topic 2: Meaning in Suffering, the Hidden Gift of Pain. One of Frankl's most radical ideas is also one of the most liberating. Suffering, in itself, can carry profound meaning. This doesn't mean we should seek pain, but rather that when pain comes, we can choose how to face it. In suffering, we are offered a mirror, one that reflects who we really are when everything else is stripped away. Inside the concentration camps, Frankl observed that suffering could become either a prison or a path to inner transformation. He saw men endure starvation, humiliation, and cruelty, but those who held onto a sense of meaning were the ones who remained spiritually alive. For some, that meaning came from the hope of reuniting with a loved one. For others, it was the desire to finish a piece of work or simply to keep their dignity intact. Frankl himself imagined speaking again, one day, about what he had learned in the camp. That vision gave him strength to survive. He famously quoted Nietzsche: He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. These words became his daily mantra, anchoring him when everything around him was chaos. Frankl discovered that purpose isn't a luxury. It's a necessity, especially in the darkest times. Suffering forces us to confront questions we often avoid. What truly matters? Who are we when there's nothing left to lose? In this way, pain becomes a teacher, harsh but honest. It strips away illusions and reveals what is real. Many people try to avoid suffering at all costs, but Frankl invites us to look deeper. What if your pain holds a message? What if your struggle is shaping your strength? Seen through this lens, hardship becomes a forge for character, not a sentence of defeat. This doesn't romanticize suffering, it transforms it. It gives us back our power, because if pain can have purpose, then even in our worst moments, life is still meaningful. That's the difference between merely surviving and truly living. Frankl's insight is a call to all of us. Don't waste your suffering. Use it. Shape it into something that serves your spirit. And through that, you might just discover a depth within yourself you never imagined possible. Topic 3: A love as a source of meaning. Seeing through the eyes of the heart. One of Viktor Frankl's most powerful revelations in the concentration camp was the transcendental force of love. Amid the brutality and hopelessness, he discovered that love could be a lifeline, a reason to endure, to resist, to keep breathing even when everything else seemed lost. He described a moment when he stood in the freezing cold, laboring under cruel conditions, and suddenly thought of his wife. He couldn't know if she was alive or dead, but in his heart, her image became a light in the darkness. In that instant, love became his salvation. Frankl wrote, "Love is the ultimate and highest goal to which man can aspire." He wasn't talking about romantic fantasy, but about the deeply spiritual experience of connection, of feeling bound to something beyond oneself. Love, in this sense, becomes meaning incarnate. Even in solitude, love has power. You don't need physical presence to feel it. The memory of a loved one, the desire to reunite, the hope of protecting or honoring someone, all of this becomes a compass guiding your soul forward, even through suffering. This is why, according to Frankl, love is not just an emotion, it is a form of spiritual vision. It allows you to see the essence of another person, to recognize their worth, and to elevate your own existence through that connection. When we love deeply, we are reminded of our humanity. In the face of dehumanization, this memory becomes a shield. Even in a place where names were replaced with numbers, where dignity was stripped away, love remained untouchable, sacred. Frankl's experience teaches us that love can be a purpose in itself. It can anchor us when nothing else makes sense. It reminds us who we are, and who we still want to become, despite the pain. And sometimes, love is the only thing that keeps us from falling apart. So, ask yourself, who or what do you love so deeply that it gives your life meaning? If you can answer that question, you already hold a key to your purpose. Topic 4: Work and contribution. Turning your gifts into purpose. While love connects us to others, work connects us to the world. For Frankl, meaningful work was another cornerstone of human existence. Not in the sense of earning money, but in the sense of offering something valuable, creating, building, contributing. In the camps, he met people who found meaning even in the smallest acts. Helping a fellow prisoner, writing secretly, imagining the future. These acts weren't grand, but they were purposeful. They gave people a reason to keep going. Frankl believed that each person carries a unique gift, a task that only they can fulfill. Life asks something of us, and through our work, we answer that question. When our actions align with our inner values, we begin to feel that our presence matters. Purposeful work isn't always about career or recognition. It could be nurturing a child, supporting a cause, healing others, teaching, or creating art. What matters is not how big the task is, but how meaningful it feels to you. In a world that often equates worth with productivity, Frankl's message is refreshing. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. When your work becomes an offering, even hardship becomes bearable. Contribution gives us direction, turns our energy into impact, and when we feel that our existence makes a difference, we no longer live by default, we live by intention. Frankl challenges us to ask, what am I here to give? Not just what we want from life, but what life wants from us. That question alone can shift your entire sense of purpose. Even when things fall apart, even when you lose your job, status, or comfort, if your heart remains committed to serving something greater than yourself, you've already found a path that no hardship can erase. Topic 5. The power of choice. Freedom within every circumstance. Perhaps Viktor Frankl's most empowering idea is that we always have a choice, even in the most extreme conditions. He called this the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose our attitude in any given set of circumstances. That insight can radically change how we experience life. In the concentration camps, everything was taken from people, their homes, families, dignity, even their names. But Frankl realized something the Nazis couldn't take: his inner freedom. He still had control over his thoughts, his mindset, and his response to suffering. That's what made all the difference. While others fell into despair, Frankl cultivated a quiet resistance within. He refused to let the horror define his soul. He observed that those who chose a purpose, who maintained dignity in small decisions, had greater strength to endure. This doesn't mean we should suppress pain or fake positivity. It means recognizing that between stimulus and response there is space, and in that space lies our power to choose. That power, once awakened, becomes a source of spiritual resilience. Frankl's philosophy teaches that we're not prisoners of fate. Even when life gives us suffering, injustice, or loss, we still have power over how we interpret and transform it. This is not about denying reality, but about refusing to surrender your inner world. In today's world, many feel overwhelmed by anxiety, pressure, and uncertainty. But Frankl reminds us, you are not powerless. You may not choose what happens to you, but you can choose what it means, and that can shift your entire existence. When you claim responsibility for your choices, you become the author of your life story. You begin to respond, not react. And that's when real transformation begins. Not outside, but within. So ask yourself, are you reacting to life or choosing your path with intention? That question alone can be the beginning of personal freedom. Topic 6. Creating meaning in a world that feels empty. In a time where many people feel lost, disconnected, or numb, Frankl's insights feel more urgent than ever. We live in an age of comfort, yet so many suffer from an inner void, a sense that life lacks meaning. Frankl called this the existential vacuum. Unlike physical suffering, this emptiness is silent and invisible. It shows up as boredom, apathy, addiction, or endless distraction. People try to fill it with noise, success, consumption, but the soul still feels hollow. That's because meaning can't be consumed, it must be created. Frankl believed that every person must take responsibility for their own meaning. Life doesn't hand you a purpose, you must shape it through choices, values, and actions. It's not something you find at the end of a path, it's something you build along the way. So how do you create meaning in modern life? Frankl gave us 3 pathways: through love, through work, and through how we face unavoidable suffering. Each one invites us to engage with life intentionally, rather than passively. Meaning isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's found in caring for someone, tending to a small garden, writing a poem, or simply staying kind in a harsh world. When you choose your actions with purpose, your life becomes a quiet act of defiance against emptiness. Frankl warns us that when we don't seek meaning consciously, we risk chasing false substitutes, status, pleasure, distraction, that leave us more lost than before. But once you begin to live with purpose, even ordinary moments feel sacred. This is your invitation. Don't wait for meaning to appear, create it. Every day. Through the way you love, serve, endure, and grow. That's how life stops being something you suffer through, and becomes something you fully live. And maybe that's Frankl's most powerful legacy. Not just surviving life, but finding the courage to make it meaningful, even in the face of chaos. Excellent deciso. Vamos adicionar mais tópico extra. Tópico 7. Para enriquecer ainda mais o conteúdo, e depois ajustaria a conclusão para que tudo fique coeso e ainda mais impactante. Topic 7. A legacy. Turning suffering into service for others. One of the most beautiful outcomes of Viktor Frankl's philosophy is this: when you find meaning in your own suffering, you can help others find theirs. Pain, when transformed, becomes wisdom, and wisdom, when shared, becomes a legacy. Frankl didn't just survive. He dedicated the rest of his life to serving others through what he had learned. After the war, he could have lived in silence. Instead, he wrote Man's Search for Meaning, a book that would touch millions. His trauma became a tool, not only for healing himself, but for healing the world. That is the ultimate purpose, to turn wounds into wings for someone else. We all have the power to do this. Every time you share your story, offer support, or give meaning to someone's struggle, you continue the cycle of purpose. Your experiences, especially the difficult ones, can become medicine for others. This is what makes life sacred. When we realize our lives are not just about our personal fulfillment, but about lifting others as we grow. Legacy is not about fame or fortune, it's about impact. And Frankl's greatest impact was helping people find light in their own darkness. Think of the people who have changed your life. Chances are they weren't perfect, they were real. They had endured, they had struggled, and they shared their truth. You can be that person for someone else. Even in your quiet acts, encouraging a friend, being present for a child, creating something meaningful, you are building a legacy. You are proving that pain doesn't have to end in bitterness. It can end in beauty, in service, in purpose. Frankl's story is a reminder that our lives are not measured only by what we achieve, but by how much meaning we leave behind for others. What we do with our suffering echoes far beyond our own timeline. So the question is, what legacy will your pain create? The answer could change someone's life, including yours. Topic 8. The dangers of a meaningless society. The crisis Frankl warned us about. Long before it became a cultural conversation, Viktor Frankl predicted the rise of a psychological crisis in modern society, not one caused by poverty or war, but by emptiness of the soul. He called it existential frustration, and today it's more relevant than ever. In a world saturated with distractions, consumption, and superficial pursuits, many people feel lost. They may have comfort, technology, and options, but lack purpose. This void often leads to anxiety, depression, addiction, and even violence. Where there is no meaning, destruction often follows. Frankl warned that when people no longer see meaning in life, they become vulnerable to extremism, nihilism, or escapism. Without something higher to strive for, they may turn to pleasure, power, or conformity, but these never truly satisfy the soul. This crisis is not a personal failure, it's a cultural one. We've built societies focused on how to live better, but ignored why to live at all. And without a why, even the best tools become empty routines. Frankl's teachings challenge us to rebuild meaning at the center of human life. That means rethinking education, relationships, work, and community. It means teaching people how to search for depth, not just success. A society that values meaning is one that thrives spiritually. It produces people who care, who contribute, who heal, and who live with purpose. A society that ignores meaning becomes numb and fractured. The good news? Each individual who chooses to live with purpose becomes a light in that darkness. The ripple effect is real. One person living with intention can inspire hundreds more to do the same. So let this message be a wake-up call. not just for your life, but for the world you help shape every day. Topic 9: Living Frankl's Legacy. A daily practice of meaning. It's one thing to understand Viktor Frankl's ideas. It's another to actually live them. But this is where transformation begins, in the ordinary choices of daily life. Every day offers a chance to create meaning, not someday, but today. Start by asking yourself 3 simple questions. What am I doing that truly matters? Who do I love, and how do I show it? How can I grow through the struggles I face? These questions, asked consistently, begin to reshape your inner world. You don't need a perfect plan, you need presence. Meaning is found in the moment, not just in milestones. When you bring intention to your work, to your relationships, and even to your pain, life begins to feel richer, more alive. Practice gratitude not just for what feels good, but for what challenges you. Remember that every difficult moment can be a training ground for your soul, a moment to practice depth over distraction, presence over escape. Keep a journal. Reflect on your values. Serve others in small ways. Create something meaningful, even if no one sees it. Live as if your existence is sacred, because it is. Frankl's message doesn't require perfection. It requires courage. The courage to ask deeper questions and to live deeper answers. That's what separates a life of routine from a life of significance. And when you begin to live this way, something beautiful happens. Your life becomes a quiet revolution. A testimony that meaning is possible, every single day, no matter what. In the end, this is how you truly honor Frankl's legacy, not by memorizing his quotes, but by living a life that whispers, "I know why I'm here." The meaning you create is the legacy you leave. By now, it's clear that Viktor Frankl didn't just survive tragedy. He gave the world a roadmap to spiritual freedom. His life is proof that even in the worst conditions, we still have power. The power to choose, to love, to serve, to create meaning. In a world that often tells you to chase happiness, Frankl invites you to pursue something deeper, purpose. Because when your life is rooted in meaning, even your struggles become sacred, and your story becomes a force that lifts others. So if this video moved you, don't let it end here. Like, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs hope. And tell us in the comments, what gives your life meaning today? Let's build a community where purpose is not the exception, but the norm.